It's that time of year, folks. Rookie camps are underway and rookie tournaments are right behind. We're going to break down all the tournaments, who's playing, who to look at, and a lot more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe and like on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. I'm Gil Martin from Locked On Islanders. I'm here every Friday with Rachel Donner of Locked On Flyers, and happy Friday, Rachel.
Happy Friday. Indeed, we get some sort of real hockey this weekend.
We take it up a notch. Yes, we
yes.
do. So we do get to do that, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But a little news we wanted to touch on before we dive into the rookie camps and rookie tournaments. The 5 players from Hockey Canada who were acquitted earlier now eligible to sign contracts as of October 15th and to take part in NHL games as of December 1st. Rachel, your thoughts on this decision by the NHL?
I mean, I don't love it, but it is what it is. That's the decision they've made. And, we'll see. I'm sure there will be rumblings. I would suspect that Carter Hart probably has the most chance of playing, given that he's a goalie and a good one at that. I don't think it'll be in Philadelphia. He unceremoniously left when all this went down and sold his house. And so, and Edmonton has said that they will not sign him. We'll see if that changes. But, other than that, time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. Edmonton definitively, making that statement. Where else do you think Carter Hart could end up?
Don't know, don't care, to be honest.
Being very succinct and very honest. And yeah, I mean, it's a very touchy situation, obviously, and there's no easy way to go forward with this.
Right. To be fair, there have been rumors about Vegas for Carter Hart out there. So I do know that. But okay. I guess we'll see is the best we can do right now in terms of, future contracts for these guys.
Yeah. And that is, we'll see how it goes and what the fallout is from the fan bases and from the media and from other players. Even I wonder if there'll be any repercussions if they do sign a contract.
Yeah. Again, we'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, no question about that. But rookie camps are here. They are open. We are back with actual players in NHL jerseys, or at least NHL practice jerseys, out there skating. Let's start with this. How does that feel? What does that mean?
Yeah, I got to attend Flyers rookie camp on Thursday, so that was always exciting, getting back at the rink and everybody's, shaking the dust off and getting back into the routine. And it's really great. I think, rookies always have that extra level of excitement around starting up a new season, and they have so much to prove. So there's a lot more energy around it. A lot of these guys are either newly drafted or in a position where they're battling for an NHL roster spot. And I think, that just adds an extra level of fun to all of it.
It does. And, the newness of it, the excitement, the fact that they're putting on that jersey for the first time, sometimes dealing with NHL coaches for the first time, sometimes the AHL or, minor league coaches from the organization are also involved. But it certainly ramps things up. And if you think about it, you maybe had a prospect camp right after the draft. This is maybe the next little level up. Then you have your training camp, which is another level up, preseason games, another level up, and then NHL regular season games if they get that far.
Right. And so it is like a big uphill battle for a lot of these guys, but that's what they've been training all off season for. And, I think it's always fun. One of the big questions that guys get asked is like, how much muscle did you put on?
Right.
Like, did you put on weight? Like, how are you feeling? How's your skating? All of that. So you get to see physically what they've been working on over the summer. So that's great.
Yeah. And, you talked about putting on weight. Most 18, 19-year-old prospects need to do that if they're going to withstand the rigors of an 82-game schedule played against 25, 30, grown men who have been doing this for many years. And, even the most skilled of them, that's one of the things they always seem to need to work on, with very few exceptions.
Yeah, it's funny. Just a quick anecdote from Flyers rookie camp on that point. Oliver Bonk, who's coming from the London Knights in the OHL, trying to battle for a roster spot in Philly. And he put on 15 pounds of muscle this summer. And everybody was like, well, how'd you do it? And he's like, I ate until I couldn't eat anymore. And he talked about like all the sandwiches, like the subs he would get just to keep eating until he was sick. And it was just like, wow, like what these guys do to do that as part of their workout routine. Because, he's burning 3,000, 4,000 calories, just in his workout. So you got to keep up with that.
Yeah, that's a diet some people would really like to be on, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it's all part of it. And hopefully you're building muscle, not fat, when you're putting on the weight. But yeah, it's when you're working out constantly and training for hockey, you're burning a lot of calories every day.
Yeah, you are, but it's all for the cause, and so I think it's a fun aspect of the beginning of rookie camp.
It is, and Matthew Schaefer of the Islanders was on the ice for the first time at Islanders rookie camp on Thursday. That was really exciting, and I just love this kid's attitude. He just is mature beyond his years. Look, he's saying all the right things. If he doesn't perform on the ice, it won't mean a heck of a lot right away. But I just marvel at how mature he is at this stage of his life. Just turned 18 a week ago.
Yeah, well, that's a good sort of transition to talk about some of these rookie tournaments, which is the first chance that we'll get to see some of these guys in games, as well as some of the returnees, like I said, who are battling for NHL roster spots now. And Matthew Schaefer, first overall pick in the draft this year, won't be in any of those rookie games because the Islanders are one of two NHL teams that do not have a preseason rookie tournament.
Yeah, and I talked about this earlier this week on Locked On Islanders. For the life of me, I cannot think of a good reason why you wouldn't want to do a rookie tournament of some kind. The expenses have got to be minimal. You don't want to necessarily have to travel very far. I could easily see the Rangers, Islanders, Devils, and Flyers having a very localized you could travel by bus, don't have to stay overnight necessarily kind of a tournament that I think would enhance the rivalry between the teams if it needs enhancing. And it's just a good way to help get your rookies out of the monotony of training camp and rookie camp, to give them an opportunity to ramp it up a little more, play in more game-like conditions. Other than the possibility of injury, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want your top prospects to participate in a rookie tournament. And when you think that 30 of the 32 teams are doing it, I guess most teams agree with me.
Right. And, the other team is the Washington Capitals. Now, they do have a formal rookie camp, and they have an intra-squad game that they do in Annapolis, Maryland, which is really cool. But again, not playing against other teams, I think, it's really good for evaluation to see them play against not their teammates, like you got to add a little bit of edge to what they're doing, and playing against less familiar players at the end of a rookie camp, I think can be really informative in trying to do player evaluations.
It can be. And then you have to also assume that a rookie camp or rookie tournament against another team, you're ramping up the physicality a little bit more, because in training camp, you don't want to hurt the guys on your team. So there may be some hitting, but it's limited.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, again, you don't want to see anybody get hurt, but at the same time, there are guys that are trying to prove something, and, bigger, stronger guys are going to want to prove that point and say, yeah, you need me because I can throw those hits that you need to dispossess people of the puck. And I think it is an important thing to have a more competitive tournament. So I'm not sure why the Caps and the Islanders don't do it. As to that Islanders, Rangers, Devils, Flyers possibility, I think it's a possibility for next summer, only because they're putting an ECHL team back in Trenton, New Jersey, starting next year. And I think that would be a really good rink and a really good opportunity for the Trenton team to, debut itself in a lot of ways, to have the NHL rookies play at their rink. And that's a good central location for it as well. So my fingers are crossed that that'll happen.
I'd love to see it. Let's see if they can make it happen. So far, I think we're the only two who have even mentioned or floated the idea. But look, why Matthew Darche is continuing one of Lou Lamoriello's less logical policies, I cannot answer. But we'll see if it changes next year. We will talk more about these rookie tournaments and some of the key prospects to watch. We've got that and more coming up next on today's Locked On NHL podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal financial tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And if you and a significant other are sharing financial accounts, this is a great way to keep everyone on the same page. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. So 10 different rookie tournaments going on. Some of them have already started, as a matter of fact. Rachel, which one has your eye first and foremost?
Well, I think the biggest one is the one that takes place up in Buffalo, and that's the one that has already had some games as of yesterday. They had the one game between the Devils and Columbus rookies, and that tournament also includes the obviously Buffalo Sabres, because it is in Buffalo, the Boston Bruins, and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, and it's a nice bunch of northeast kind of teams, and it'll be. I just love these tournaments. Are there any particular players that you have your eye on in that particular prospects challenge up in Buffalo?
Yeah, I should mention that this tournament is one that's existed in the past, and Ottawa has participated in this one in the past, but they moved to a different one this year. And so that's why we have the awkward 5 teams number. And so what they're doing is the Bruins are playing 2 games and each of the other teams are playing 3 games each. But for the Buffalo Sabres, the host team, Radim Murtka, is the, I think, top prospect to watch there, because there's a lot of top prospects in this group of teams in particular that all went to play college. And so they are ineligible to play in these rookie tournaments, again, because of the rules that college players aren't allowed to go to training camp. So I think, there are going to be key guys missing, like Hayden Lindstrom and Jackson Smith from the Columbus Blue Jackets. But, there are guys like Merca, who was a very highly touted prospect that Buffalo picked up in the draft. So very excited to see him.
Yeah, should be interesting to keep an eye there. And from Boston, how about Fraser Minton? He's 21. He's a center. The Bruins need center depth, so he may be a player who could fit into that middle six, and a guy with a chance to make the roster. Be interesting to see. And the thing is this, guys who are close to making rosters, they need to really stand out in these rookie tournaments.
They do. And I would say another guy that I would want to watch is Ben Kendall from Pittsburgh. He's somebody that I looked at pretty closely and kind of wanted the Flyers to pick, but alas, he is a Pittsburgh Penguin. And he went 11th in the 2025 NHL draft. And, I'm a huge fan of the Calgary Hitmen. I think there's a good legacy in junior hockey from that club. And so I think he could stand out. And, the Penguins are in such a transitional period, Kendall could benefit from that. There's going to be a lot of roster spots available here.
Yeah, there are. Pittsburgh is transitioning. Over for the Devils, I think maybe Seamus Casey, a right shot defenseman. He has a chance to shine this year, and that'd be interesting to see what he ends up doing. Had a good start last season with the Devils, but he kind of fell off, and size is a big issue for him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, Seamus Casey was somebody that I looked at, scouted pretty heavily for his draft year. And I do have some questions about him, but this is the year for him to show those answers, right? Yeah,
time to start showing what you can do. What is the next tournament that you've got your eye on?
So there's the Southern Tier tournament, as I call it, even though that's not what they call it, but it's the one that's going to be down in Florida. And that has the two Florida teams, of course, with the Lightning and the Stanley Cup champion Panthers, as well as the Nashville Predators and Carolina Hurricanes. And that is a tournament that's sort of round robin where they play 3 games each.
Yeah, and I like that. And, it's like somehow – these Southern teams, I like this setup. And again, you can create or intensify some rivalries this way. Any players in particular you're looking at in this tournament?
Yeah, Brady Martin from the Nashville Predators. I think there are a lot of questions about him in the draft. And I know he was one of the centers that the Flyers were considering in the draft, and ultimately they passed on it and didn't even pick a center. But I think, there's a lot of pros and cons with him and his game. And I think, what he was able to do over this summer, and ultimately what he does this upcoming season. I don't think he's going to be on the Predators this upcoming season, but I think it'll be a good benchmark kind of tournament for him.
Yeah, I think so too. For Tampa Bay, I'm looking at Sam O'Reilly. They acquired him from Edmonton. He's now one of the top prospects in the Lightning pipeline, and somebody who I think projects eventually as a third line, kind of a two-way center. But obviously it's going to take a little bit of time for him to develop.
Yeah, for sure. And again, that's what this is all about. These rookie tournaments are all about, is seeing how they stack up against their peers, essentially giving them assignments of what to work on this upcoming season. Then you come back next summer and see if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. For Carolina, I'm looking at Bradley Nadeau, the left wing. Had a very productive season in the AHL last year, but kind of quiet at World Juniors. He has something to prove. Probably going to start the season in the AHL.
Yeah, I would say so. And that's what's always interesting. It's like obviously when you get a little bit older and you can play in the AHL, there's a certain advantage to that, as opposed to it's either the NHL or back to junior. That is always awkward, because at least when they're in the AHL, they're learning to play against pros and bigger guys and guys with harder shots, and it's more attuned to the pace of an NHL game. And so it's easier to evaluate, and the prospect development is a little bit easier. But, when they're younger, obviously you just can't do that. So it creates a lot of tough decisions for these teams as to what to do with guys.
Will we see a change in that rule?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole other topic for a whole other show.
I'm just putting it out there because it's out there.
Yeah, it's something that could change. I think, we're seeing, again, because of the way that the NCAA rules have changed, there's a lot more guys going to play college hockey than going back to juniors. And none of these college players are at rookie camp. And so it's kind of changing the nature of rookie camp overall. Like, that is a whole thing. So I think it'll probably be discussed over the next couple of years.
It should be. And I mean, most teams do have a little rookie camp after the draft. So that does allow college players to participate. But they lose something. But it's
a development camp.
Yes,
it's not a training
camp. They lose
camp.
something by not being able to be there this week.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I do think that, especially when you have a team like Carolina participating in that tournament with Nashville, who's been struggling, but they have these promising prospects that we're talking about. And then, the defending Stanley Cup champions, and their young players wanting to prove that they are part of this now legacy and can maybe help create a dynasty, which we're not at yet, in my opinion, with this Florida Panthers team. But I do think that it's a good group of teams to see what the young players are like.
It is. One more cup, and they do start to get into that dynasty category.
Agreed.
But nobody's done that since the Islanders in 1982. So it's out there. It is out there for them to try. We've got some more rookie tournaments to discuss and some key players in them. We'll have that and more coming up next on today's Locked On NHL podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether you like player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to get started. Place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Check it out today. So what is the next tournament that you've got your eye on here?
Well, the next one is the one up in Montreal, which has changed from last year. So last year it was just Montreal and Toronto, and this is where Ottawa wound up, and Winnipeg joined them to create a nice little 4-team Canadian rookie tournament where they play 2 games each. And I think it'll be fun just to go outside of just having Montreal and Toronto together.
Yeah, I think it definitely adds something. And you've got the 4 Canadian teams going up against each other. To me, that creates a nice little rivalry. And it's good to see that tournament growing in a way.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see Easton Cowan on the Leafs in this tournament. Obviously, a huge star with the London Knights. 2 of the Flyers prospects at rookie camp this year played on that London Knights team. So I've seen a lot of Easton Cowan action, and he's just a tremendous player to watch, and led the OHL playoffs this past year. But going from junior hockey, like Memorial Cup aside, like it's a whole other ball game at the NHL level. So I want to see how he's competing against the other top rookies here.
Yeah, I agree. And then another player I'm looking at in that tournament, David Reinbacher, the right shot defenseman from the Canadiens. And, he had some issues when he was playing in Switzerland last year, also had some injuries, but he needs a bounce back season now. And he should have a pretty big role assuming that he ends up in junior this year. But I think he's got some nice potential if he could stay healthy.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That is a good one as well.
And the next tournament after that.
So this is where we get down to the 3-team tournaments down from 4. So we've got one in St. Paul, Minnesota, hosted by the Wild with the Chicago Blackhawks and St. Louis Blues. It was in St. Louis last year. It's in Minnesota this year. And of course, to me, the big prospect in this tournament is the Bayum for the Minnesota Wild. And then I would say secondarily, Jimmy Snuggerud on the St. Louis Blues. Snuggerud was a key player on the U.S. development team program, and I always love seeing what these kids can do when they move over into the pro side of hockey.
Yeah, it is always interesting to see how they're going to do, and that transition is, I think, the biggest jump out of all of them when you think about it.
Yeah, and we saw Zeev Buium play last season in the NHL, but it was kind of trial by fire in the playoffs, and to be able to do a reset where you're starting from the beginning of a season and the beginning of the cycle, I think it's important for kids like him in making that transition to go through all the paces, and this is part of it.
Absolutely. Next tournament.
I do want to mention that a key Blackhawks prospect in that tournament, Mason West, will not be there because he's playing high school football because he's a 2-sport guy.
There you go. Keeps him out of the hockey tournament for now.
And next, then we have the California tournament, which there was a big Western tournament which got broken up into other ones. So now it's just the California teams with the Ducks, Kings, and Sharks. So many prospects in this tournament because you have, the Sharks and the Ducks that are trying to crawl back into things. So they have a lot of young prospects because they've got a lot of good picks. But the Kings have some really great prospects as well. And I want to highlight Henry Brushevitz, who was one of my top prospects on the draft this year that, again, the Flyers did not pick. He went to the Kings. Love him. I think he's going to be a really good middle sixer in the NHL eventually. And then Carter George, goaltender, I think, who has a lot of promise as well.
Yeah, and over for San Jose, I'm looking at Igor Chernyshkov, 19 years old, big kid, 6'3", future power forward. They usually take a little more time to develop. He worked with Michael Misa last year in juniors, and you could see him as that power forward protector, guy who could be physical in the top 6 that can really add to a line, but he's a couple of years away.
Yeah, and Joshua Ravensbergen, a recent draft pick goaltender for the Sharks, will also be there. This is the one tournament where I'm super excited about the goalies. So, yeah. So that is a good one. There's a few of these just 2-team. They're not really tournaments. They're just series, but at least they're against different teams. And so we have the Flyers and Rangers are playing a 2-game series in Allentown, which is where the AHL team for the Flyers play. Jack Nesbitt for the Flyers, I think, is the key prospect to watch there. And you have the one between Detroit and Dallas. There used to be a huge one in Traverse City, and that kind of got broken up over the years. And it's just Detroit and Dallas this year. And so that's kind of a bummer. I liked that old Traverse City one.
Yeah, it got to be a little bit of a tradition after a while.
Yeah, it did. And so it is kind of a shame to see it just be those 2 teams. But Emil Hemming from the Dallas Stars, I think, is the key prospect that I'm looking to watch because he did come over to North America last year and played junior hockey, but now I want to see what he looks like, in the big boy leagues.
Yeah, and for Detroit, I'm looking at Nate Danielson. He's 20 years old, a center who has a chance to make the big club after having 39 points in the AHL last year. So he needs to make a quick first impression and get off to a good start.
Yeah, he does. And then the last one is the only two teams left that we have not talked about, and that's the Vancouver Canucks and the Seattle Kraken. Oh, I guess there's two more. It's the Western one. So we have the Canucks and the Kraken, and then we have the Battle of Alberta here. And, the Kraken are another team that have a lot of young prospects because, they had high draft picks and a lot of them this past year. Jake O'Brien, I would say, is the key prospect I'm looking to watch. Another potential center that the Flyers could have drafted and did not. So let's see what he can do out there.
Yeah. And, for Seattle, how about Berkeley Catton? I think, one of the top prospects, and want to see what he can do.
Yep, absolutely. And then the Calgary Edmonton one for the Oilers, I would say Isaac Howard because who they just signed, and Matt Savoy is another prospect there as well. Zane Parekh with the Flames is another key player. So both of these 2-team Western rookie series are going to be fun.
It's great to have hockey back, even if it is rookie tournaments only at this point. Like we said at the beginning, next step up, and we will have it covered here on Locked On NHL. Rachel, I know you and Erica L. Ayala will be back tomorrow with the Women's Hockey Spotlight, so we're looking forward to that. I'll be back on Monday interviewing 3 of our local hosts about the biggest stories from around the NHL. I'm Gil Martin. She's Rachel Donner. Have a great weekend, everybody, and thanks so much for watching and listening to the Locked On NHL podcast.